You know how to stop the. All right. I think we're good to go. All right. Welcome, everyone, and thank you. It's 6 o'clock. I'd like to go ahead and get started. First, I'd like to say thank you for your attendance. We'll start, as we do every meeting, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please remove your hats. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. All right. Again, thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. I wanted to just start the meeting by quickly making us go through my methodology. When I was given to be asked to be the chair of this committee and given the resources, et cetera, the committee was huge. There's 14 or 15 people, and that's just too many to get things done. And so I kind of thought, well, maybe this is a good time to make a new committee. And I went through it methodically, and I wanted to have clear channels of communication between different groups, different communities within the community. So I decided to have, a couple people from Autumn Lake, a couple people from Spring Lake, somebody from Summer Lake, people who live on the water, people who live off the water, people who don't live here full time, people who fish regularly, people who boat and ski, somebody who goes to the beach, all those different things. And so I kind of put all those parameters together and wanted to come up with 5 or 6 people. And so these are the committee members that I came up with. Now, this is my first shot at this. I'm not going to say it's perfect. If I need to, make some changes, et cetera, if it becomes apparent that we would benefit from different people, more people, et cetera, we'll address that. But this is where we're going to, that's the starting point. I just wanted everyone to know that I've been contacted a couple of times about being on the committee. The people around this table have sent me different things even before I had the committee started. Hey, you might be interested in this. Hey, this might be helpful, et cetera. Some of them had been on the committee before, even the chair before. Tim Fulkerson was the chair before. And so it just made sense that this is the group of people that I assembled. We'll see how it goes. All right. So thanks, everyone. I'd like to start with just some introductions. My name's Kit Campbell. They make a lot of clothing with my initials on it, and hopefully some of you, they don't give me any royalties, unfortunately. I retired just a few years ago. My wife Bonnie over there and I have been wanting to retire on a lake forever, and we looked at probably 24 lakes within an hour of St. Louis because we have our grandchild living there, and our grandson, or no, our son-in-law said you ought to look at Raintree. We came in, we fell in love with the place, and they're going to have to take us out of here on a stretcher. We're not ever leaving. This is our forever home. We love this place. I've met so many wonderful people. I couldn't be happier. That's where I'm. We love it here. We absolutely love it here. Greg
Kirkpatrick, probably bought out here in 87, 88, one of the lots over by the winter, summer. And after probably about 10 years coming out fishing, I sold it. Lived in by Seaside Park for 34 years. And about 5 years ago, we moved out on Easy Street, and then a lot became available over on Spring Lake. Bought it, built a new house, loved the place. Like Kent, you're gonna have to carry me out on a stretcher. So like to fish. I think it's a wonderful area. I think there's some things that definitely need to improve in it. And I think it's just getting consensus and everybody's head in the same place. They try to move things forward for the community. So, and personally, I don't think it would be anything without the 4 lakes. If there were no 4 lakes, it'd just be another damn subdivision in South County. So.
Mark Winchester or Mr. Tilley. This will be our sixth summer here, and much like Kent, we lived in a subdivision over across from the college and decided that we're getting ready to retire, so let's move to a lake. And like Ken's situation, we looked and looked and looked and finally found this place and on Spring Lake and bought it and just fell in love with it. We built a new seawall and boathouse and slip here last year, and that makes it love it even more. So we're really happy here. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, I'm Tom Selm. We bought out here in August of '99. I, like these guys, looked for lakes all over the place that were within 45 minutes to an hour from St. Louis. And kind of narrowed it down between here and Lake St. Louis. We looked at houses back and forth. Actually even bid on a house out here in 2016, but didn't get it. And then got it in 2019 on Autumn Lake. Most of it is I wanted a house with a boathouse and I could just put my boat up on the lake when I was done. Primary reason we're out here is I've grown up water skiing my entire life, so we do a lot of water skiing here and teach a lot of people how to water ski, wakeboard, and so on. So I will be here as long as I can as well, and I retired about 2.5 years ago, so I spend more time out here than before.
My name is Brian Fink. I run the fishing tournaments out there on the lake. Been running for about 2 years now. Lived here maybe like 2.5, so got into it kind of early. Actually, I'm not retired.
I actually work.
My wife, I'm married and I have 2 kids that are under 3. If I could have lived in a place like this and got to fish as much as my kids will be able to fish, I don't know what I would have done with myself, you know. I grew up in a small town called Eolia, it's up by Bowling Green, Missouri. And it was kind of a small town feel, and my wife's from Jefferson County, and we kind of settled on Raintree because I like to fish, she likes to be closer to parents, so it worked. And I find myself out in the boat at least once a week fishing, so I'm out there quite a bit and met a lot of nice people when I've been here. I mean, just in the short time I've been here, and I mean, lifelong friends now. You know, I call them up every day and we talk fishing. So, but yeah, really like it here and look forward to being here a long time.
And I'm Mike Newberry, live back on the 2 little lakes in the back, well, on one of the 2 little lakes in the back, Summer and Winter Lake. Wife and I moved here in 2018. Not yet retired, but it could happen any day, so.
By choice, hopefully.
Yeah, by
Yeah.
choice, not by choice. Just kicking around some things before I make up my mind, so. Like I said, I live on the Summer and Winter Lakes in the back, and you know, I guess my job is to represent that area and, you know, see. I'm brand new to this sport, so I'm waiting to see where I fit in, to tell you the truth,
Sure.
so.
Thanks. The other 2 people that unfortunately can't be, or Desiree Rodriguez is the co-chair, but she can't be here tonight. And Tim Fulkerson is the other one. Maybe, hopefully he'll show up. One thing that you just said, Mike, about representing, I don't want everybody to feel like the reason that these particular people were chosen was to represent that specific community. In fact, I think I made it clear to the email to all of you that we're here for the collective good, not to compete for resources, but rather what's best for the lake in general, not any one particular person or one particular community.
Right.
What's that?
Yeah,
I think everybody was all in on that. Certainly, that was the impression I got. I will also say that in getting ready for this meeting, starting making a list of objectives, I realized that it may require us to have more than just these people. And there may be people that we ask that you have a historical perspective, or you have a certain skill set, or you've done a certain task in the past that was beneficial for us, and we may ask you to do that again to help out. Again, we're, again, my objective here, my makeup was so that every community within the community had a clear line of communication to this group and back. All right. So with that, I wanted to think about the primary objectives for our committee, and I mean, we could make a long list. But I think more than anything, you know, when I decided to run for the board, I said that my purpose was to preserve the enjoyment, the safety, and the investment you have in Raintree. And so, as Mark said, or Greg, one of you, this is a lake community, and without the lake community, we're not really much other than another golf course community. And so I think the lakes have to be our objective, our primary objective. And I'm talking about the long-term health of the lake. And we've already done some work working towards that, and we have a long way to go. So given that, I made a list of things. I think our dredging option, we've been charged by the board to come up with a cost for dredging of the lakes. And so we'll need a couple of people to volunteer and start working on that. We need options and costs. But along with dredging, I think we would all agree that it doesn't do any good to dredge the lakes if we don't do something to try to stop some of the silting in that's already happening, the leaves, the dirt, et cetera. You know, every body of water is born with a death sentence. They're all going to fill in, every body on the face of the earth, but maybe not the oceans. But we need to see if there's anything we can do to kind of stop that from happening, but it's not going to fix the problem we have now. So it's going to be a two-pronged approach to that. The beach maintenance, taking care of the beach. I know there was money set aside for the watch station, and we promised to put a watch station out there. Unfortunately, the cost of it was much greater than the money we have. But I think there are less costly alternatives, and so that's something else we'll look into. I know Tim is passionate about that, and when he gets here, he'll help. Parking at the beach. We spend an awful lot of time talking about parking at the beach, and we spend a lot of time being unwelcome to certain groups of people or certain individuals because they don't have the proper sticker or hang tag, and maybe we still need those. I'm not saying by any means that we don't need those things, but we need to come up with a better plan that somehow, how can we expand parking? How can we improve parking? Something rather than continue to fight it. Let's see if we can't fix it. I've talked to the Missouri Department of Conservation, more on that later, but we need to, I understand the fishing here was phenomenal just a few years ago. I haven't found it to be phenomenal, but maybe I'm more of a pond fisherman, not a big lake fisherman, so I probably have a lot to learn. However, I don't think the lakes have been stocked the last year or maybe longer, and I know there was regular stocking going on before. I think that's important. And then Tom sent something to me. I'd seen it once before from Tim, and I think even before that, about how other things we can do to help preserve the health of the lake. And when I looked at the stuff from Clean Flow, they're coming to give us a presentation later in February. I spoke with a gentleman from Missouri Department of Conservation for well over an hour. He has a plethora of information. He is a wonderful guy, and he's agreed to help us at least assess our lakes and how to maintain the health of these lakes. And one word that kept coming up was phosphorus, phosphorus, phosphorus. And I saw in the things that you said, phosphorus. And so I don't think we can tell everybody not to use phosphorus in their lawn, but there were some great recommendations on that information you sent me, those materials about not fertilizing the last 10 feet of your yard and not doing it, maybe not using phosphorus in the spring so much as in the fall. And, you know, you fertilize for the future, not for that particular time period. And so we can get into that. I thought maybe we could review that later today. I don't know that we'll be take any actions, but if the committee embraced it and we sent it out to the community, it may mean more than if we do it ourselves. Well, maybe we should wait and see what the Conservation Department and Clean Flow say, but I mean, given that I keep seeing phosphorus, and if there's some simple things we can do, preventative, I think we should do those. I don't know if you guys have thought of other things. I know that's not an exhaustive list by any means, but those are the things that I think need to be addressed. And again, nothing's more important than the long-term health of the lakes so that we can maintain, I mean, without the lakes, I don't think we have much to sell here.
One of the things on the email that you sent us.
Yeah.
Mentioned, blowing leaves in the lake in the fall. I mean, that's something that I see too often, and it's a simple, what do you think's gonna happen when you do that? Certainly would like to hear about conservation or somebody that knows more about lakes than me thinks about that, so.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is even possible or how we would do it, but it seems like we should probably try to make it simpler to do something else with the leaves, rather than tell people, you can't do that. Let's say, here's an alternative. Now, I don't know what that looks like, and I don't know if we can afford to do it. I mean, we're strapped for cash now that I've been on the board. I've learned this community is strapped for cash, and so we can come up with a bunch of great ideas, but we need to, we have to kind of attenuate ourselves and say, okay, we could only do so much, but each individual could help a lot by not blowing leaves into the lake, not.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Chili and I talked about this several weeks ago. And we've got a machine that sucks leaves up into a big black container. And we kind of proposed that if we could blow our leaves up towards the road and have this thing come by and suck up the leaves, we're kind of accomplishing that. We're not blowing it into the lake. We were told that the maintenance department really doesn't have time to do that. But I'm thinking, I would pay $50 or $100 for somebody to come by and suck up the leaves that we blew up towards the road. And if we could turn that into a profit center, or have somebody do that, that's one way of eliminating at least a good part of that.
Potential. I mean, our job on this committee is to come up with ideas and make recommendations to the board that ultimately they have to say, yeah, we can do this, or no, we can't. And there's all kinds of financial, legal, and other kinds of restrictions, but I like thinking outside the box. What else can we do? You just made me think of something that I failed to say. It's not only blowing leaves into the lake, it's blowing leaves into the runoffs. People who don't live close to the water can still blow their leaves into the lakes, into the gullies, or I don't know what the proper term is for it.
Stormwater control.
Yeah, and it just runs right into the lake too,
Which
and
produces muck.
which produces muck, and we all hate muck, right?
Right. I know that where Mark and Tilly live, we looked at it this past summer, and they'd had it dredged out when they put their dock in, and when we looked at it, I don't know, late July, August, it filled back in. So there has to be a way to control that somehow.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to dredge the lakes and keep dredging them if we're not gonna do something to stop them, whether it's catch basins or, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. I'm not a pond biologist or lake biologist, but again, we're gonna reach out to people who have quite a bit of experience or knowledge, and we're getting a couple of presentations coming.
Yeah, well, I've often wondered where we could take leaves. This year, my boat slip actually stayed pretty clean. Last year was full of leaves, and I didn't do anything different either year other than I mulched one time myself. My lawn care normally does it. But I also have 2 trash cans right now that are full of mulched up leaves, and you dump them somewhere that goes back in the lake, where the stormwater goes. But if it's below the dam, it's not going to go in the lake. I don't know what, what options there are or any part of the land down there that you could dump and stuff.
Be wonderful to have a big compost.
Certainly
pile.
don't end up in lake.
But I don't know that we have a place for it, and again, let's just keep thinking outside the box, but if none of it happens, it's not because we don't want it to, it's just simply there may not be an opportunity for it. But I like thinking this way.
That was gonna be the question. I thought, well, I love his idea. We gotta figure out where the heck we're going. with it.
What do we do with them?
Yeah.
You see people burning them.
And
And I'm not opposed to that, as long as you do it intelligently, just don't set your neighbors,
House on fire.
their house on fire.
You know, I gotta say, I lived on Easy Street before I moved over to the lake, and there's some huge, beautiful trees out the back. But seriously, it was up to here, and you basically had to burn them. And I did have somebody come and suck leaves. That was about $250. It's just, it was a little outrageous. Plus, that was about halfway through the season of leaves falling, so it was just crazy. I ended up buying a burn bucket, but can't really do that.
well, and I think burning them is probably the simplest solution. But again, in that material you said, don't burn within X feet of the lake, only because I think part of that is, you destroy the grass and then it's easier for runoff, plus ash and whatnot, but maybe there's a solution to burning, and of course, that's the people on the lake, but the people off the lake, they have the same issue if the ash flows into the runoff. I'm sure there's a term for that, and I just don't know what it is.
There are multiple St. Louis County municipalities that do exactly what he's talking about. They have a leaf pickup day. St. Louis City, where I live, actually had that too. And essentially what it was a giant trailer with a lead back, like you would pull behind your lawnmower, going into a box trailer. I have no idea what that equipment would cost, and I know we got maintenance people that are busy with everything else. And so how that could be worked out, I don't know, but
Yeah, or maybe there's,
maybe even investigate.
I don't think there's any,
He's got the equipment.
I don't think there's any value in leaves, or we could have somebody come in and sell them, but.
Unless you're gardening, I take all my leaves every year, I mulch them, I rake them up, and I have a compost bin, and I use it in my garden every year. And I had the best garden I ever had last year. So if there's something that, that if you could bring them to a place like the loaded dam where other people can use them, I use it as leaf mulch on top of it, and then my backyard, my garden, and I don't have any weeds.
Well, I think we can, so not to cut anybody short, but I think we can agree that we need to try to address continued silting in of the lakes as much as dredging the muck, as you say, that's in there now. That's the list of things that I said that came to mind that we need to address. I know there's plenty more, the pavilion, the parks, there's other things that we're charged with, that this committee is charged with, but those are the big things that I think need to be addressed and addressed rapidly. So we'll probably have to break into work groups and and I'm not going to assign anybody anything, just volunteer and say, hey, I'd like to be part of that, or I'd like to be part of that. Any others that I just completed that aren't somehow related to one of those things?
Well, I can jump in, because when I was on the committee during that little time period there, 3-4 months, I did investigations, and I talked to some of you folks and asked you all to kind of get information, pull it together, and I in turn talked to a lot of these people. And that's where I ended up talking to Indian Lakes in Cuba, Missouri. And they have a 320-acre lake, and they use this company Clean Flow. And I got to tell you, these guys absolutely love them. They said that their fishing has just been tremendous. The water's clean, the water's clear. So that's when he came to my house right before the August meeting, which was my last meeting. And we drove around to all the lakes. He looked at them. He was real upset with your guys' lakes over there. Yeah, I mean, he looked at us like, oh my God, the water's about this deep in the back lake.
And it's honestly, somewhat that it's silted in, but it's also, all of this vegetation is so dense up there where it's silted in, that yeah, you can take a hole and you jab it down into the stuff.
He mentioned something when we walked out onto the dam called bunny something or other, and bunny weed, and apparently this thing is very invasive and not good at all. I got like a little
I was
flower.
told that it was called Naiad or Hydrilla.
Well, it could be,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't
This
even
guy's
know.
originally from Australia,
Those
so.
are two different things, but yeah, they keep coming up in the reports that I've
Yes.
dug through in there.
But that's why then in turn, on the 20th, if you all would love, or 20th or 22nd? 22nd for everybody to come and listen to this fellow do a presentation and see. Again, the folks in Cuba, Missouri, and I'll give you their names. Anybody want to talk to them, you can go out to their website and look at underneath of their restoration that they've done by using these folks. And they've been very, very happy with them. If we would do something like that, it could take care of muck on the one hand. Anywhere from 4 to 6 inches per year by putting in oxygenization all over the lake where these bubbles keep coming up, and they're all about 45 feet away from each other, which in turn produces the muck to kind of clear out, and the fish eat, or microbes eat that, fish eat the microbes, fish get bigger, water gets deeper, lake gets clear, is what I understand. And if anybody wants that, I got a couple extra one of these here,
I would
just from their website.
I would
So,
encourage you to read their information. I mean, it's gonna take you some time because it's a lot of material and it's a big document, but there's a lot of really good information. It's very compelling. Now,
Yeah.
there's no mention of cost.
None.
So I have no idea if it's a pie in the sky or not, but
it could be.
it certainly looks great. And I've been to Indian Hill or Indian Lake a bunch of times, and I mean, I would think we have to figure out how if it's expensive, how to, or regardless what it costs, how they pay for it.
Well, in talking to them, they set up a 501c3 nonprofit organization, which I've looked into. And I've got part of the tax document done, but it's overwhelming, basically. From my perspective, I'm a tech guy, not an accountant type person. And but they have people that come that live in the community that donate money, and in turn that money goes towards the lake, and that's what they're doing versus adding it on top of the homeowners.
I'm not sure, we may be restricted from doing. I don't know if we
I
can.
don't
do
know.
that.
There's gonna be a question when he's talking about, could we fundraise, can we fundraise specifically for our people? I mean, or, I don't know, I do not know what the covenants say about that, but.
Well, it's not the covenants, it's the legal, whether or not, if we're not for profit, we're not for profit. And so there's some restrictions on how we do it. Anyway, let's see if it's even something that we're interested in
Yeah.
and what the cost is before we go down this.
Sure. Sure.
Okay, again, I consider that part of dredging, but I'm glad you brought it up.
One other thing too, from what I understand, one of the big concerns has always been too, is that Spring Lake is never done as far as any kind of chemicals being put in it to kill the weeds or whatever, because it's being used to do the golf course. And of course, the fear is that you don't want the grass to die, and then Mr. Tucker might want to sue us, and then you're into this nightmare again. And this is no problem
Right.
with using water with this process
And,
to take and put it onto the golf course. So that's.
and
a
the
big
gentleman I
difference.
talked to from the Conservation Department said, John Schulte.
Yeah,
He said you don't always have to use chemicals.
No.
And so, and one of the things on our agenda that I got the bid from Aqua Services Consultants, and it went up about another 10%, and that's treating autumn, winter and summer lakes without spring lake. Now, I've gone through a bunch of the files there. I haven't gone through them all. There's a bunch of them in there, but I've been digging through them, and apparently the company that we used before, Aqua Services, did not treat Spring Lake either. And so I don't know if something has changed, like if there's not something eating the vegetation now, or if there's more vegetation, or if this was introduced into these lakes, but it doesn't sound like it was as big of an issue just a few years ago. I don't know because I didn't live here. But it sounds like it's become more of an issue the last 3 or 4 years. Anybody who's lived here for a number of years, is that a good assumption or not?
You're right on.
And it's gotten much worse the last few years. And I don't know if and the other thing is, unfortunately, plants, just like animals, develop resistance to things. And if we've been in it, they've been using similar chemicals. What I can see, they've been using similar chemicals for a number of years. And I don't know if we're developing some resistance or what.
So I have, I guess, a couple of comments about, I don't know what Spring Lake looks like, but I don't know, and I've heard many times the same stories, why we haven't treated it. I mean, for me, I don't understand. I called 4 or 5 lakes when Greg had asked us to call different lakes. Every single lake I talked to had a golf course. Every single one watered the golf course with a lake. Every single one treated the lakes. But they also used, and they have NIAID, which I think is the main problem we've had in the big lake. They have algae, which is pretty easy to take care of. And I heard, I guess in the last POA meeting, algae was probably the bigger problem on the Spring Lake. They talk a lot about grass carp, and I sent you the summary, Ken, that I had, and I know Greg had, of what I did for those lakes. And for me, there's no reason for us to not start treating that when we treat the rest of, the lakes this coming
Treat them, meaning,
spring
But
some, yeah.
but treatment can mean a lot of different things.
Well, yeah, I mean, take care, yeah.
Biologics versus chemicals versus
And every,
whatever.
I think, most everyone ever used grass carp, in their lakes to try to keep things.
The little shiners, they eat, apparently they eat stuff. So I think none of us have this much knowledge compared to the guy from Mr. Schulte from the Department of Conservation. And they are busy right now. I sent him information. He said, you won't hear from me in January. It's the CWD, the chronic wasting disease. It's all hands on deck. He said, every person that works for the Department of Conservation is doing CWD the entire month, but I anticipate hearing from him early February.
And every single lake said they are a great resource, and they have had somebody at their lake that's talked to them for the last 10 years.
Yep.
And all I've seen since I've been here is a revolving door
Yeah,
on
well,
this committee. So, we have no.
there's not been a lot of stability, but that's a whole nother issue. So moving forward, let's attack this. Let's use this multi-pronged approach. Thank you, Greg. So I'll go ahead and talk about, I wanted to talk about the survey, but we'll talk about the Department of Conservation. I did speak with Mr. Schulte for well over an hour. He's very helpful. He seems extremely knowledgeable. And he said, I've got a lot of things I can do for you. And he said, you need to improve the health of your lakes. He asked me for some information. And again, I've been going through all that information. One thing, a side note, in the literature, the materials I've reviewed, it said that Spring Lake was self-regulating because it's a spring-fed lake. It wasn't necessarily, didn't need treatment because of the chemicals being used for another reason. It was because it was a spring-fed lake. And so it didn't require treatment, is what I've learned looking through that stuff. And what I'm not saying that's not true. I'm just telling you what I've found. Obviously, I mean, when I go over there, there's a lot of growth. And so but I don't know enough about it. I know Mr. Schulte's phone number and his email address. That's as much as I know about it. So he has agreed. He asked me to do a few things. If anybody has a map of the lake with depths, like I don't want to call it a topographical map, but a depth, where the different depths. I sent him the information. Well, Autumn Lake is 55 or 60 feet deep, and Spring Lake was at one time 30 or more feet deep, et cetera. But I think he wants more detailed information. I haven't come across it.
You haven't found the Spring Lake depth chart in there. Tilly and I spent a day putting that together.
Forrest was just here. I could have asked him for that.
Yeah.
I know he has that.
There's
Cause we went out and we did all the coves and did like every 10 or 15 feet.
Yeah.
If I can figure out how to do it, I've actually got all those lakes plotted. I've got a chart plotter on my boat and I've got all those plotted.
I think any information we can give him, he would appreciate.
Yeah, it shoots 100 foot each way
Wow.
and you do it and it builds you a map.
So here's what I heard. I talked to Martin Toma, who's been here forever, and he said, because I asked him about this clean flow, and they wanted to have an idea on the depth, and he said that he thought the big lake, Autumn Lake, was around 65 feet.
Yeah, it's about.
Spring Lake was around 45, and then they couldn't go over 35 for the other two lakes because of then they would have had to do something else with the dam and some other things. So they were around the 35 feet on the depth side. So just to, throw them out there. So 35, 45 and around 65.
I think probably the lower is probably 35, there's no way the other one is 35.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Yeah. what
He
talked about-
wouldn't 100%.
I don't think it is.
Certainly isn't now, that's for sure.
Yeah,
You were the one, okay.
That was a crazy one.
You-
It was about 8 foot. I walked all the way out the middle and drilled a hole 8 foot with my net. Last
okay.
Saturday.
All right. Well,
I mean, that's kind of what I heard.
No, yeah.
so anyway, and he would like to know historical stocking efforts. I found some information from Curryville Fisheries or Curryville. Do you know if there's been any other companies?
That's all that I had talked to Tim about it, but, and I don't even know if they did it last year or the year before, but it was like, they had a breakdown of it. But talking with Ken.
See, I found bills. I didn't.
Talking with, John.
Yeah.
He was, he's like, I wouldn't put anything back in there yet.
Right.
He goes, you gotta take fish out. He goes, I've got all the stuff back at the house with, the tournament for the last 2 years. But the way he said, the way it sounds, you're gonna have to take 150 pounds of bass out per acre on Autumn Lake to get it where it needs to be. There's that many little fish in that.
Wow.
And he said, for every 5 fish on Spring Lake, you need to take 3 out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's just entirely too many fish that are that big.
Yep.
So
Okay.
then what do you do for that? Do
So-
you shock the lake and bring the
No.
fish up or something and?
No,
scoop 'em
so
up?
I fished lakes like Kincaid, Lake Severs, Henry Severs Lake. They've had these same problems. They've introduced tiger muskie in there.
Who?
And tiger muskie. So it's a fish that's in northern, north states, and they eat the little fish, you got too many bass, you have to have something that's gonna do it, else they're just gonna repop, keep going, keep going, keep going. Unless people really start taking them out, but I don't see them taking that many fish out of the lake.
Yeah. Well,
I
I don't know. I mean, but let me be clear. When I spoke with him, I said, this is not about fishing. This is about the health of the lakes.
Right.
And he actually said to me, you can't have a healthy lake if you don't have a good fishing lake. He said they are interdependent.
Right.
You
And-
can't have one
and-
without the other, which I was not aware of because
Yes.
I thought you could have some lakes that were like swimming pools and some lakes that were like, trophy fishing. And he just said, no, they're a big part of the ecosystem. So I think we have a lot to learn from him that we can't,
Yeah.
let's wait till we hear from him but when you talk, I asked him about shocking. And he said, the shocking only works if you do it at the right temperature and it only shocks the top 6 feet.
Mm.
And really what he's asked, he has a form that he sent me and you have to have everybody who fishes write down every fish they catch in the length. They don't need weight, they don't need any size, but just what species it was and what length it was for us to do a good fish census. But again, let's wait until we hear from him about how to do that. Now,
Can I ask a question about
Yeah.
it? With us being a private community, will he get involved with these lakes being with the state and we're a private?
we
you know,
pay
subdivision?
we pay state taxes. All of us pay taxes to the state, and that's who funds the Missouri Department of Conservation. So I got the impression from him that
Wasn't a problem?
he was all about coming to, maybe not come, yeah. I offered to drive out there and see him, bring him information. He goes, you don't need to come out here. you know, it's far away. And I said, well, could you come here? And he goes, here's what I'll do. And he picked a date, February 13th, and he picked a time, 9 o'clock. Now, I think he wants to do it video conference, and I asked him if I could record it, because I don't know if there's any way if we put this many people on a video, what's the word? A video call, it just,
A Zoom
and
call. yeah.
so, but I asked him
Or
if we
Teams or
couldn't
whatever.
have permission to tape it and make it available, and I'm still waiting to hear back from him. I think January was a month where they're all CWD, and that's,
Yeah.
they eat, drink, and sleep CWD.
There's a lot of places where they're having to thin the crap out of the deer herd to CWDs.
Right,
Right.
right.
And, I know this because I know two of them.
So I'll see if that's something that we could put up here, or if it's something that we just, the committee needs to have a smaller version, but we tape it and make it available to everybody, but I want everybody to see it. What he has to say. Again, I talked to him for an hour. I was saturated with information, and I think he has more information than.
That's about all I talked to him.
Yeah.
So being as you said.
So we'll start there. That's, I think, is a good place to start and here, because they address two different things, and maybe there's some overlap, but.
Well, in the document from Clean Flow, that's, and part of their third process is the reduction of phosphorus and nitrogen, you
Yeah.
know, so that's, I mean, they talk about that too.
So did you guys all get it, or hopefully if you didn't get a chance, can you look at it? I think we should, as a group, send that out to the community and say, here, please make every attempt to follow these parameters.
Not the police, but I mean, some people will do.
We're not gonna police it. You're just gonna have to hope that people have it as much invested in this community that, you know, this is our home. This is we all have quite an investment in this. So, anything else on those two things, Clean Flow or Department of Conservation?
So Schulte's, when he comes, and I understand his expertise, and I understand he's linking the fishery with the health of the lake. I mean, is that something that they could maybe do, or could we even ask him if that's something they could do down the road, is monitor that so that we know how healthy our lake is and what we need to do as far as, hey, you need to start taking small bass, you know, or whatever. Our.
I can't imagine why he wouldn't. I mean, that's what they want they want healthy lakes in Missouri, public or private. And so I mean, my buddy that owns a farm pond, lots of farm ponds, and they give him, they tell him all the time what to do.
I think that even one guy know at the farm pond, that even hooked him up with who they would prefer you use who to get fish from.
Well, and that's why I'm so interested in starting with him, is because he's not a vendor. He doesn't have anything to sell us.
Yeah.
You know, if anything, we've already bought it, but we've paid our taxes, but he doesn't have anything to sell. He can't say, well, this is really the program you ought to use. It's an unbiased approach to it, hopefully. Now, it may turn out that the things he says we can't do or whatever, but I think we should start there.
Let's go back to this treating it. I think when we got together, it was gonna come out to about $51,000 a year for the using.
So Aqua Services was 51,000 a year for winter, summer, and autumn lakes. That does not include Spring Lake.
Right. I just wonder, did that do any good? I mean, we're on Spring Lake, so I'm not a good barometer on this, but on the autumn, did it seem to help?
I think,
At my dock, there was the tall grass in the spring, and when they started treating it, was gone.
Tom and I are in kind of the same cove, and so I would tell you, I thought it was significantly improved,
Okay.
but
I don't think that on, whichever one I'm on, winter, summer, the upper lake, I don't think it even made a net.
Were they even there?
They were there, I saw them, my ring cam picks them up whenever they're going up the shoreline. And I saw them twice, I think. Somebody out there in a boat doing something that looked like, I just assumed was treating, twice. And I don't think they made again.
well, when I,
Excuse me,
Go ahead. No.
I'm just thinking I had a buddy that, kind of ran, is it Indian Point over in Illinois around, uh, Edwardsville? Anyway, it was a pretty good sized lake, several hundred acres. And they had similar situations, and they just took the head of maintenance and this fellow that was in running it and had them certified, and they just treated it themselves.
Yeah, that's potentially, I mean. I don't know, we could look into anything, again, thinking outside the box, yeah, that might work, I don't know, I don't know what it takes to get certified to,
Yeah, in conversations with some of the lakes that I talked to also, when we did a little survey, and that a number of these people just went and took a course, and it was like maybe a week long or something like that, and then they went out and took care of the lakes themselves. Just saying,
So,
I don't know what it entailed, but
So I don't know who brought it up, but I heard time and time again that we can't treat Spring Lake because the water is used for the golf course. But I'm hearing the opposite, and that the document you sent me, Tom, it seemed like all those places, now I don't know what chemicals they used. But maybe one of the next things we need to do is just at least get together with Dave Tucker and say, hey, we're considering this. What concerns do you have? I think we need to start there. We need to be transparent with him from the get-go. And then my other concern is looking through all those documents in there, again, the reason that Matt Redmond wrote in his assessment that Spring Lake should not be treated is because it's a self-regulating spring-fed lake. It had nothing to do with the golf course. That's what, did you guys all see that?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've had documents, but look at
that.
the Spring Lake assessment that he sent us a few years ago. And it says nothing about the golf course. It just says that and I know for a fact that Solitude was not treating Spring Lake either. However, as I got deeper into the files, I also found out that Matt Redmond was treating it before Solitude. And so we may have just approached Solitude about treating autumn, winter, and summer. I don't know. I just don't know because I wasn't around.
I thought I had heard that Solitude treated all the lakes.
Not spring. I did not.
There's no invoice for it in the stuff that I've been through. But there's a whole lot more papers in there. I haven't had a chance to get through all of them. So I think maybe we should talk to Dave Tucker and just say, hey, we're exploring this more. We just want you to be aware up front. And then, I mean, my concern is if we go to Matt Redmond and say, hey, how much will you charge us to treat Spring Lake as well? He may say, I'm not going to treat Spring Lake, which is fine.
That's what he told me. That's what he told me this summer. He said, I won't do it. I don't want to be sued.
I don't want to be sued.
Yeah, that's
by
what
the
he
golf
said.
course?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Okay, because that's
So-
not what his report says at all. Okay.
Man,
I'll reach-
I talked to him over by the dam. We're putting the boats in, and myself and Steve Jefferson were there and met with him before he went in to do it, and he and I got into it a little bit based off of them not doing Spring Lake and why wouldn't they do Spring Lake? And he said what you said, but then bottom line too, as we got into the conversation, he's fearful he gets sued. And I think we're also fearful that we get sued as the subdivision, and then we're back into this. Nobody's gotten any money again because it's all going to attorneys.
We need to avoid that. Well, the stuff I've seen from Tom, it certainly looks like there's a solution. We just have to find it. We got to do some work and find it. So I'm going to reach out to Dave Tucker, and I'm going to reach out to Matt Redmond again, just to get something from him on whether he will or will not in a price. Now I know I called a couple of other companies. This is taxing my brain. Lake Management maybe was one of them that's in Marthasville. I should have brought it with me, but they unfortunately didn't return my call. And there's another one. Is anybody aware of any other treatment companies, or would somebody take the time to look for
Yeah,
more?
there is another company with Aqua in their name that I talked to them, and they actually had no problem coming in and doing all 4 lakes. I could,
Did they give us a price?
uh,
Had they even come here?
actually, he said, well, here's our bid from the last time. He said, and it'd pretty much be right on. Of course, that was this past summer.
From the last time, so they've been here before?
They bid before and Redmond got the Aqua Services won the contract because I think of the price. This guy was a little bit more.
Okay,
So, but
Did
I can,
they were treating all 4 lakes though?
they would, is what he said.
Do you have, okay. We'll
I'll
talk-
get it, I'll find it,
We'll talk later.
I'll send it to you.
Okay, the survey. I sent the survey out and I sent, we made that survey, just a couple of us, and the purpose of that survey was not to prioritize things. Oh, this is more important than that. I heard from so many people, nobody fishes anymore, and there's only a select number of people who go to the beach and they're.
All right.
Let's say it, the Lacy DC. I love it. Hopefully, we're not here all night long, but we will be if we need to. I lost my train of thought.
Survey.
Oh, the survey. The survey. Thank you, Linda. The survey was.
It gets worse.
Well. I used to use an excuse that I still have chemo brain from 5 years ago, but now I think it's just because I have too many birthdays. I'm just. Now, don't use that against me in the future, please. I've said that jokingly. The survey, the survey was mostly just enforced and I put it together. Unfortunately, it's not here, but it wasn't to prioritize anything. It was to say, okay, which of these lakes do you use? And we wanted to make sure that people used all 4 lakes. And sure enough, that was the data. Do you fish? Do you use the beach? Do you use this lake? Do you ski? Do you boat? Do you swim? And it was yes to everything. And so, I mean, more than anything, I heard so many comments from so many people, and I just wanted some data that said, sure enough, we have to be all these things to our community. We can't say, okay, we're this community or we're that community. And I think 200 responses out of
I
1,100.
mean, I don't have the little lines up, but
Yeah.
each one that you asked with the percentages.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything that got less than 20% on any question. So obviously, we need to be all these things for all these people. It's very valid to continue all of our efforts, and we have data to back that up. And I think the vendors, we can show the vendors. The gentleman from the Missouri Department of Conservation started asking me all kinds of questions. And I don't know. And so now I have data we have data to show him. I was gonna say something else. Thanks, Greg.
About the survey?
You interrupted me.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Well, anyway, the survey is what it is. I know what I said. I got 200 responses out of 1,100 emails that we have. And I know there are at least twice that many people that we need to query that, there's email addresses. We don't have nearly all the people that are part of the Raintree community. And I don't think the 200 responses really powers it to make any conclusions other than there was a significant interest in all of the different activities. And that's really all I wanted to get in the survey. I don't know if I don't think you can draw the conclusions from that, but I'd be interested in anybody else's perspective. If you thought differently, but I mean, I got from that these are all very valid things to approach.
So 1,100 were sent out? And
We have
email
1,100. We have 1,100 email addresses for Raintree community. We probably, I can't imagine it's not a ton more than that. Of people that
Are still good.
203,
Yeah.
you said. You got that?
we got two. No, how many email addresses? Yeah, people change their email. And I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there's a way that it sends it back and says it's undeliverable. Oh, wait, the secretary of the board knows. So
There's 1,129 active emails, and out of that, I would venture to say probably 600, 700 are actual residents, because like Mark has an email and I have an email, so having 1,100 doesn't really mean that there's 1,100 homes being. It
Right,
could
right.
be 600, 700 That would
But
probably be
even-
my guess.
Yeah, but
But then what happens is that I can see how many people click on and even open up something.
yeah,
And if I get 60% of that 1,100, that's a good day. I
Well,
mean, we're.
well, and we need to include all the people who don't live here, but
Right.
but come and use this community. We need their input.
you know, kind of coming from a marketing sales kind of background, and that is, you gotta get out there in front of people. And if they haven't opened it, well, then send it again, and then send it again, and then send it again, and just, you know, kind of get it in front of people's face, because people get a lot of emails. And, you know, you can always pass by.
People hate surveys. That's why I try to make it as short and as sweet as possible.
Yeah.
Here, just answer a couple, 3 questions. Thanks for your time. I tried to make it very easy,
Yeah.
but anyway, it is what it is. I feel like got some data that I can at least share with vendors if I get asked now, or before it was, well, I think so. And now I have some data. That was the whole purpose of it drilled down, and I know we could have asked a bunch more questions. We could have asked more specific questions, but that's not at all what my objective was, what we decided. What else do we need to cover? Those are the things that I put together for this meeting. What else? Anybody have burning platform items that, again, big picture today? I just wanted to really have an introduction, have a meeting.
I've got a question. I've kind of been asking myself this for a while now. When they're spraying the lakes, it's killing weeds, correct? Where is that matter going? Bottom of the lake,
Muck.
muck. So if we continue to keep spraying and spraying them, it's just gonna keep getting worse and worse. So, I mean, I think if this clean flow, I mean, if that's something that's, I mean, that'd be pretty cool.
You know,
I mean, if you keep spraying it, you're just gonna keep having the same problems.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's what I'm
Yeah, that's
hearing.
where grass carp come into play.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the whole ecosystem does matter.
Right, but I don't know, I know Aaron had done some research on that and how many it would take to start helping, and it was a lot.
That's okay.
Well,
Yeah, it's fine. you know?
I mean, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
you eat an elephant one bite at a time. Let's just start and,
Yeah.
let's just start and get a master plan.
Yeah.
And I recognize there's been a lot of turnover, et cetera, et cetera. So
Right.
okay, that happened. Let's move forward now with a master plan.
Mhm.
And again, for the dredging, the board has charged us with coming up with a number. And so I think we have to do that, but we can also give them clean flow as another option, but I don't think we can just have one option, being clean flow.
there's what's a lake community that's not too far from here?
Is it Tishomingo?
It could be, and I saw something on their website that they're looking for $1.5 million to do dredging to get a big thing out there and, start dredging like that. This clean flow, it might be the same amount, could be half that amount, but it is a consistent thing, year after year after year after year.
Once it's established, then you don't have to come back every year, and it may take a little while to get down to what you want, but once it's established, then you don't have to pay for them to come back every year, every couple of years and redredge. I mean, I get that, but.
I don't know, ask Mark.
So how do we,
Now, we got another load in with this last rain. I sent,
Yeah, I saw the
video to you,
pictures, yeah.
and
I mean, once clean flow is established.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Once they're
I thought you had to-
established, then you're not paying.
so
every-
how do we get the
Right.
word out to people that, we need to stop the flow of debris and other matter into the lakes? We need to somehow fund one of these programs. We need to stop using certain fertilizers or use them smarter. I mean, how do we get that information out to the community?
What would be the cost of email? A blast email is free. But what would be the cost of a mass mailing with this type of information in there?
It's cost prohibitive. It's
Okay.
John,
$3,000 to $4,000.
5,000. Yeah, I mean, it's just,
We do the one mailing, for the election, and they say it's about.
it's just so-
$3,000.
we have, our budget is so thin right
I
now.
know, no, I get it. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, that would not be money well spent.
You're talking about stopping it from coming into the lakes. I know that John Willett, Mark, and a gentleman by the name of Jay Voss, who I think does docks around
Does what?
Jay Boss.
Does what?
He does docking, he builds docks
Oh, Doc,
for
okay.
boat decks. And we were all met with him and he basically, I don't know, what do you call the big rock? He had ideas as far as putting up some kind of fence. Back up the creeks a little ways to stop anything from coming in. And having an area where the maintenance people could once, twice a year, go back in, take out all the leaves and, do whatever with them, burn them or whatever. That was an idea.
Let's
that
just
we
keep coming
talked
up with
about.
more options. I mean, anybody who knows any option or hears of anything, let's explore it.
I can't think of the, what do you call it, rip rock or?
Rip wrap.
Yeah, and I don't know. You got the picture that I sent you, didn't it? I think there's a lot of stuff that we could do on our own. There was one, and I'll send this around the table, and basically what it was is if you've been down on Spring Lake, the main flow that the tributary that runs into it, and then it runs under a bridge, that there's a way of putting not a screen wire, but kind of like a rebar construction that would catch the big stuff.
Yeah, there's a similar at the bottom of Column Drive. Where, Column Drive, where it splits into East and West Vista. There's a culvert that goes underneath the joining part of Vista and it has a rebar cage. But it'd have to be a lot more sophisticated than that one to stop.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's similar to what's down.
I think, if we had the people that could weld that together, we could just use, I would say under $1,500, we could build one of those and have it installed.
Well, let's look at it. Let's see if it's feasible.
Okay.
So our to-do list, I'll talk to Dave Tucker. I'll talk to Matt Redmond. You have Clean Flow taken care of. I'll wait to hear back from John Schulte. We want to talk to, I don't know, maintenance and see if they, I don't know if they,
About what?
if they have the ability to
Oh,
do something like
sure,
this,
well,
are we putting the cart in front of the horse by saying, okay, let's do this? I mean, anything we can do to stop runoff, I think is beneficial.
If we had the material and, I think I know a guy, I'll give his name to you, that I know he could do it. I just don't know if he's too busy. He may say, no, I don't have time,
Yeah,
but I know it could.
I bet we've got somebody here.
I'm sure there's more than one metal
knows-
fab guy
And
out.
I know we've got a welding operation here. I can't imagine something this size and not have a welder.
Yeah.
What is it, you're talking concrete? Or what?
No, using
It's
rebar,
like a rebar cage to put
Cage
underneath
and-
and,
and it's got spaces between it. And it's not gonna catch everything, but it'll catch the larger stuff, and then after the rain, comes through like we just had, you go back in there and you clean it out.
that's the only thing I would say is we would have to be diligent about making sure we keep it cleaned out because.
Yeah.
A couple of real bad rains and then it's clogged up.
Yep.
Then you have
That's a
erosion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have to be where maintenance would have to be able to give wherever that is at
Yeah.
to take it out every so
Yeah.
often. Jesse Hewitt does concrete. He deals with rebar, but I do believe doing concrete,
Right,
obviously.
right.
That might be somebody that actually lives right over by you,
Okay. Jesse
Hewitt.
Hewitt. Okay.
So I'll call Dave Tucker and Matt Redmond. Do you have the name of that other company? Or do
I
you
will-
have the contact information?
I will get that to you.
Will you get them or?
Yeah.
Will you call them or will get it to me or whatever?
I'll send you his
Okay.
bid that he sent.
Okay,
It's like Services Aqua, or, it's very close to Aqua Services, the name of it. But I will do that, for sure. They'll have it by tomorrow. Can I ask a question? And that is of some of the folks that are here, you're here for a reason.
well, that was one of the next, so after we make this to-do list, I was gonna
Okay.
ask, is there anything that we've said or do you have additional questions or Anything that you'd like to ask us about? Please.
Just a comment, go to the beach, we don't really go to the beach too much tonight, but there's been, every year I've been here, we've had erosion at the very top of that concrete wall. Comes down, they put sand down, it washed into the lake. And to me, it would make sense to, that's expensive sand every year, so.
Right.
You could alleviate that drainage where it get washed out every year, or minimize it. That would be probably a good thing to do.
Is there a way to recover some of the sand back up to the beach? You know what I mean? Is there a way to backblade it back up the hill or something? I don't know, I'm asking.
They
Because
do it.
it's a steep beach, the sand is gonna go back. Is there a way to pull it back up every year? So
I asked Al about that, and he said the sand stinks.
so if you do that, the sand will stay.
If you do it in the fall, it's not gonna stink in the summer.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, are you talking about, so to be clear, are you talking about regrading the sand that's on the beach, or are you talking about recovering sand that's in the water now?
Going down into the water with some kind of.
I don't know, it's kind of nice to have sand all the way out there to
Oh, no,
walk
you never take it all out, but you
Yeah.
take some.
I like having the sand to walk
back up the
on,
hill,
but,
You know?
yeah, I don't,
I mean, what they do 5 truckloads of it last year or something like that? That many? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, and here, that's a lot of
do
sand.
you know, do you have any idea about cost? I mean, like is it $1,000 a truck or $5,000 a truck or
You know what? I don't think Tim, it was.
what?
Tim will know all that.
Yeah,
Yeah, when we have our, seawall built, they put a coffer dam in it with these huge, sacks full of white sand.
right.
It's on the, sand volleyball court now. And if we could get,
I hope they're not coming here.
if we could get the people that are building these seawalls and just tell them who's ever doing it, rather than haul that sand off, they just dump it someplace, they don't recycle it.
Is that sand that we would want though?
Yeah.
Is it beach quality sand? I don't know what,
White, if you.
I just made that term up, but is it beach quality sand that,
Yeah, well, if you drive, across the dam on Autumn Lake and look down and you see the white sand down there. If you look over the dam and there's a sand volleyball court down there,
oh, yeah.
okay, that's where it came from. That was our coffer dam.
Again, that would be somebody like Jay Voss who does dock. And to do the dock, he needs those big
Right.
sand things.
Yeah.
So
Or
that they
anybody
can-
that's having a seawall built in Raintree, what are you gonna do with your sand in there?
Good idea.
Well, they gotta haul it off. Well, how about if we cut that in half, you just dump it over here, and we can use it. Even if they dump it. just-
If they don't reuse it,
The
then,
guy that did my neighbors next door has moved it around to different spots around the
So
sub.
he takes it to the next dock.
Really?
Yeah, that makes
I know he does, and he's in here most of the year, but at the end of the year, he may be done.
we can
To
ask,
start over, but I know he reuses it
we can ask.
right now.
It's an idea.
I had a comment you talked about when you talked to the conservation agent. Definitely try to record that as video or find somebody to record
Yeah.
whatever gets said, not just for conversation now, but for historical reasons.
Well, yeah, for what?
For historical reasons.
Yeah.
Put it in a file, in the folder, or wherever, so you
Oh.
guys can always reference it, the next committee can reference it, to make sure you stay on track.
Yeah, they have, actually, it was interesting. One of the last things we talked about, he said, we're developing a program, and I don't know if he meant a series of videos, pamphlets, whatever, because we get approached so many times by POAs, and HOAs for this very reason. It's happening across so yes, I'm sure they're good with coming out, because he said they're developing a program just for HOA, POAs that I guess they're unique in that the makeup of the community or their tax status or something.
Right.
But they're coming up with a program just for that purpose. So,
Good.
but I like we hope to record it. I've asked permission to use it and to disperse it. I haven't heard back. But I'm not surprised I didn't hear back from him. He told me I would not hear back from him.
I could also say that you can record anybody in the state of Missouri without their knowledge, so. If you're doing a Zoom with them and you want to record it, technically you could, so just saying,
Yeah, I just went, yeah.
just saying. Yeah, it's legal.
Danny?
Okay, the Jefferson County has a stormwater department. And if you're thinking of putting some type of screening in at these gullies and ditches that are coming in, I think you need to consult them about that. The gully I'm thinking of is actually the worst is one on Summer Lake. That gully over there goes for about 4 miles up into Hillsborough. There's a whole lot of water coming down. And at one time, it actually broke up that road over there, and we had to repair the road. So there's a lot of things to consider with this stormwater stuff.
It's interesting. One of the things I came across going through all those files was the water table that contributes to these lakes is huge, huge. We do get water from a huge surrounding area. I was very surprised at how big it is for Autumn Lake. Okay, any other comments? Yes, please.
We live on Autumn Lake for 32 years. We had more grass carp years ago than we had catfish. I mean, we had a lot of grass carp. They kept the lake clean. What is the big aversion now to grass carp? I know they only live 7 to 10 years. So occasionally we have a dead grass carp, come up in the dock and get rid of it. But I mean, we didn't have all this grass and stuff. I mean, 32 years ago, we had great fish. It's really.
Honestly,
Old fashioned ways to get rid of weeds.
Yeah.
well, that makes, I mean, that's nature's way of doing it though, and
Yes.
it's worked for a long, long time. So I don't know if there's an aversion to it necessarily. I don't know if, again, and I'm not making excuses, but I think there has been a lot of turnover and hopefully we can come up with we're trying to step back, take a look at the big picture and come up with a long-term plan.
32 years ago, there was just grass carp.
And honest-
Like you said, it'll
Yeah.
take a lot.
And I appreciate your comments because that historical perspective helps us a lot. I don't think,
I'd like to ask Brian a question, which is, you brought up the fact of the fish that eat the other fish and grass carp, but then it kind of got held here on, let's shock the lake and see what fish and pull fish out. I mean,
You'll never get them all. You'll never see them.
would it hurt to put those 2 species in here? One to eat the small fish and then to eat the grass too. And I mean, would the expenses be all that much and would it be that terrible to have just these other 2 species of fish back in, or at least one of
Right,
them?
I don't know how many grass carp they call per acre. But it's gonna be a lot, but I think the biggest thing is people want the fix like that. It ain't gonna happen like that, it's gonna take time, like you said, you know?
Usually you
for
can
somebody
fish there
who's
about
lived
like
on
this
lake
thing.
35 years, they've seen it, they know what's going on, so they've seen what worked,
It's gonna take at least a year once you put the grass.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, when you put them in there, they're what, a foot long, $7 a piece?
so do you guys think, will the community tolerate a long-range plan? Say, hey, we're not gonna use these, or I don't know, maybe we use the chemicals, but we also do the grass carp. I mean, how do we get that word out? I mean, we just have to, somehow get it out to people that look, we're not looking at Band-Aids. We're talking about long-term solutions because I want to live here for a long time.
That's why I said, we've been here 32 on that lake. And the aqua people, they might have meant well, but they come along in their little boat. We're retired, so we see them every time they come out. He'd purposely hurry down there to watch them. One little stream, and sure enough, that one little area would look better than the rest. But it wouldn't even pull it out. I mean, we had to get in with rakes and just try to pull out what they spilled in that little stream.
I did the right too.
Yeah. If you want to be proactive and kind of get ahead of things, I don't know when you introduce grass carp to lakes, I'm sure it has to be.
the right time of year.
Right
I think
time
that's
of
a
year.
question for the.
For conservation.
Yeah, when we have that.
No, but this, and I don't know if he's gonna take questions from us necessarily. He may have a canned presentation that he always gives, but we can always email him more questions. So this is helpful. He's kind of making notes and say, okay, what about this? What about? And he may answer that question before we even ask it, but that's helpful.
And
Thank
there's
you.
other species of grass carp. I mean, some people don't want them because whatever their reason is, but there's different species. The ones we had were really large, they were big. I mean, of course, I'm sure.
Big fish, big appetite. That's
My
good.
understanding, the
No,
biggest,
they taste good, but.
No big appetite is for grass.
A lot of bones, a lot of bones.
my understanding of the problem with the species of grass carp is if they make it out of your lake and into a river system, that's when they reproduce, and that's why they have too many grass carp.
That's an Indonesian grass carp though, that's not what we had here.
So it's a different species.
Oh, yeah.
we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, when I talked to the other lakes, they talked about the right species, and so.
Yeah, you have to get the right
It's
species.
not just.
And it worked for many years. I mean, we, this is the problem here with the grass. It's just been the last 10 to 15 years that it's just been going downhill. First 20 years we lived here, we never had anything like this.
So you think the grass has been a problem for a decade or more?
Yeah, yeah, it's been a decade of it going worse and worse and worse.
So can I ask if grass carp were put in and the other species, what, monkey?
Muskies.
Muskies.
And I'm not
I'm
saying
sorry,
that-
I don't hear why.
I'm not saying that's.
Tiger
the thing.
monkey.
You know, John might say, hey, we only do that in these certain scenarios and that, and I mean, I'm not a biologist, he is, I don't know, it's just.
Yeah.
I fish a lot of different bodies of water besides here, and I see what other places are doing or what the conservation's doing in other places. And it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, but I guess where I was going is as a community, would we say that those are fish you cannot take out of the lakes? And have some kind of sign put up, if indeed that is something we do that,
I don't think,
you can't.
I don't
come
think
and
they're
fish
really a
and take-
game fish or a,
No,
or
tiger
a,
muskie is.
oh yeah, tiger muskie, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
Grass carp,
Yeah.
people can catch it and take a picture and tell them what.
throw it back.
Yeah, as long as people aren't boat fishing for them, because I mean, it would take, a couple guys with a couple boats to wipe a lot of those fish out very quickly.
It'd be a while before we had enough of them to go bow fishing.
I wouldn't
because-
even allow it. I wouldn't allow people
Yeah,
to shoot.
fine.
Yeah.
They're working for us.
What do they call
We
them?
only
The
shoot
fish
on
of
boys.
10,000 casts or something, you
Yeah,
know,
muskies,
Yeah.
a muskie. So, yeah. Anyway, that, it sounds like thank you again for your perspective and.
And if I could ask one more thing, how many shad used to be in that lake? Was there a lot of shad in that lake? Or in any of the lakes?
Now there is, up to 3-4 years ago, they were non-existent.
Right, okay.
And
Cause I keep hearing there's less and less and less shad there. Cause they have less and less food.
Well, I think part of the reason
The-
predatory, if
Well,
they eat their own fry because there's no place for
Well,
it.
the shad eat microscopic, plankton.
Right.
Okay, well, if we're spraying the lakes, they don't have any food, so the bait fish die, so now we have no shad. Now the bass are depending on each other and they don't have that food source anymore.
Yeah.
And that's why I've kind of been talking with the guys about that.
They
So
eat-
now, when we're out there, we don't see any shad. Why isn't there any shad anymore?
See, and that, when I talked to the guy from Clean Flow, he said that the muck stops the oxygen, which does not produce the organisms for the fish to eat off of and go up the food channel,
Right.
and that would take care of all that, so.
I see big schools of shad almost every day.
At-
in the cove.
At Spring Lake,
No,
Run out of my.
at autumn, okay.
No, I
Have you
haven't
seen the
spring
spring?
shad on spring
I haven't
lake.
seen
Because
it,
I definitely don't see it back there in summer and winter, so.
I don't see them in it, I haven't seen it.
Okay, well, let's wait till the 13th and see
Yeah.
what the biologist says, and then. Linda, did you have a question?
You've said a couple of times, how do we get information out there or something? So my question is, because you want more input from people, because you want to come up with a decision and then tell people?
I just think we need to be able to communicate with people and develop a following, if you will, that, hey, here's the plan, here's what we're gonna do. And not keep people guessing about, well, what's gonna happen? What are you gonna do? I think there just has to be a better way to communicate what we're doing. I hope the people trust their, trust the individuals that are volunteering their time to do these things but I think we need to keep them informed so they maintain that trust. You know what I mean? Is that fair? Is that what you're asking?
You know, and so I can't recall what the subject line to do that survey was. And I can't.
It just said Lakes and Beach survey, just a simple survey,
And I don't gave us a deadline, it seemed like it wanted
the
to-
21st.
You know, so it could maybe the subject line, time sensitive, really need your input, need this by the state, so that if people are like, hey, I'll read that later, we go, oh, shoot, I need to do it now. These are just some tips about how to get people to
Yeah.
read it now.
Mhm.
You know, your 200 responses, to me, it's like, and I get it, I'm 1,100. And I appreciated that, you sent it to everybody, because he had different answers than I did, and, we're in the same household. And, but, 200 is a start, it's great.
Right.
But if you continually through the newsletters and even individual, emails specific to the lake, just make sure the subject line is catchworthy. Just keep doing what you're doing and say that, hey, we're doing this, and so you're gonna hear from us more frequently because, we're working on this thing, and I love the fact that you said, we can't let these lakes go. This is why people live here. It's too important. So even communications like that, what keeps the value of our property.
Yeah,
here,
I mean,
the lakes and all of that. Just continue to highlight the importance of.
yeah, but
the health
yeah,
of the
and I
lakes.
agree with you, and we'll do all those things, but word to word, I mean, face-to-face communication, if every one of us tells 2 or 10 people, and it just, gets around that way, it just seems to be more effective, it's more valid, if you will.
Potential that we can call a campaign for those that are interested in whatever to go, okay, this month, anytime you see a neighbor or you're at a,
Right,
whatever, just say, hey, you guys know that they're really thinking about, blah, blah, blah. Well, make sure you read your emails,
Well,
if you want to hear more, blah, blah, blah. Just
yeah, and
like you
I
said,
think we
we're
just
doing
need to get the word out, let's not wait for a crisis
that.
to
Right.
do something about whatever it is in Raintree that needs to be done. Let's not wait for a crisis, and I just don't know how to get that out to people.
And for a while, when Tim was in his role as, coach.
The chair of Lakes and
We
Beach.
did have a Facebook group. I have no idea if that's still being used. I think that caught a lot of people's attention. It was a Lakes and Beaches Facebook group, and you may not necessarily want to throw everything in there, but hey, watch your email that came out, we'll push everybody to the email.
Yeah.
Hey, and if you don't get an email, here's how you sign up so that people are, go to one source or to the website, if that's where you're posting, or both. Direct us all to, there's some important information that we could get. Hey, tell your friends, whatever. Just as many avenues as you can. Throw out the information because there
Can
are.
we have 2 Facebook pages and we have the MailChimp. It goes out. So that goes out MailChimp goes out once a month. And then anytime the MailChimp goes out, it goes on both POA and the community. We have a 2 Facebook. places.
So no judgment. Do you guys all read those things? I mean, people get survey fatigue and they say, oh, another survey, I'm not gonna look at this, or I get so many damn emails. I know people who say they get 100 emails by lunch every day, and I don't, do you guys all look at those things and use them as a resource? Do you think your friends and neighbors do? I mean, okay,
Can't you look on Facebook and see how many people are part of a
Yeah.
group?
Yes,
I don't know anything about it, yeah.
not just the group, but you can also see people who
How often
have
it's
even
been
looked
viewed.
at it, not responded, not said, done the thumbs up or whatever. But you can see off to the left-hand or right-hand side, 400 and something when people looked at it, at least. So,
Social media,
Well-
to put out our information is
Yeah.
probably good.
I like what Linda said, let's use,
The both Facebook places that we post, it is not just Raintree people. So anybody, I mean, anybody from Hillsborough
Right.
or surrounding areas or whatever wants to be, I've been instructed that anybody that wants to be a friend, I go, okay. So I don't befriend anybody or anything like that, so some of the stuff, you know.
Do we monitor what they put on it?
No. Now, what I post, I mean, the reason, you know, I'll just, from the secretary point of view, Facebook has not been a good place to post them. You post your stuff, but then people comment and it can get into a bad situation, and I refuse to do that. That's just my personal opinion.
We're not
I
gonna
will
change
give you-
that.
I will give you facts. I will do like Linda said, hey, this is what we're doing. I can do all that. I don't have a problem with that. But when it comes to interacting back and forth with people,
Well, I like
sorry,
what-
I'm not.
But I like what Linda said. If a lot of people use Facebook, let's direct them to the website and say, hey, here's the latest and greatest.
Look here.
And you could put links on there, couldn't you?
And yeah.
Yeah, you can put them like, right, you can put them.
We can put a link, perfect,
Yeah.
we'll do that.
But on Facebook, people got a lot of opinions, and you know what they're like.
A lot of times they just-
You're not gonna change that though. But,
Yeah,
screw it around.
but if we're,
They
but
don't
if,
even- they don't
but if
even
we
care.
reach more people.
Yeah. That's all.
And
Yeah.
we get them to look at the website and say, this is the resource. This is where you're gonna get the straight stuff. Unfiltered, you know, here's what it is here's what is coming from the POA.
Well, that's what the two Facebook accounts are, it's just like what I post is, and I told people that if you wanna know truth, these are the two, because they are generated from the POA in the sense, it will come from the POA secretary. Now, when people comment and make their own opinions, that is not me, you know,
That's
and so
fine.
that.
That's fine.
If they go there, and I think a lot of people do that, but I think Linda's.
But if we can
idea-
but if we can direct people to go to the website, that's probably the right thing to do. Say, hey, if you're interested, here's the best, here's the latest information from
some kind of,
this committee, the board,
Right.
whatever.
some kind of POA certified lakes and beaches or whatever, you know?
Okay, thank you again. Thank you, Linda. Anything else anybody has for us tonight? Otherwise, I'm sincerely thank you for your attendance. I appreciate people coming out, and thanks all you guys for taking the time to be on this committee. I think we should meet probably regularly, at least to start with, until we get some kind of a game plan. Once a month is probably adequate for right now. I'd rather get the meetings on the schedule and we could always cancel them if we're just not there. I think we need to do it strategically. I picked today, not out of a hat, but it's halfway between two board meetings. And I just thought, let's try to meet. You kind of like to have some time to get some work done, make these phone calls and do the research, but also like to get together and have something to report to the board. I don't want to meet 2 days after the board meets and then it's another month and we say, well, we don't really have anything new from the meeting. So I don't know if there's a day that's better or not better for people in the winter. Not a lot goes on in the summertime. There's golf leagues, there's people play cards, there's boating in the evenings. Is there a day or a time I assume evenings are the best. I can do mornings. Most of us are retired. Hopefully. Some of you will soon.
Some of us still work.
No, we'll do it evening because I think that's only fair to the community that we have it in the evening for any people. I think it's only fair we have it in the evenings.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. What? Wait, before we all go, what? You want?
This meeting. On the call. That's.
I'm not sure. It's gonna be, it's the whole committee and maybe the community. Let me end this because this is gonna be.